Yeah, it's a great question. I think so. What I did do, I told you about that block earlier on in South Yorkshire and a few sort of buildings that have been converted to two flats and things like that. I also did a couple of professional HMOs quite early on. Standard was nowhere like it is today. And they were great for cash flow, but headache for management purposes. Didn't really enjoy that very much. Whereas the opportunities today, I think a lot of the opportunities lie in the enhanced rents that providers are paying. And there's still a lot of, like there is in property, you'll know YPN will have reported 6 times on every buzzword as it's come up and down over time. It's inevitable, isn't it? Right. And social housing, you might be able to tell us when the first time you started talking about that more commonly, but it's become much more viable in this world because the technical nerdy reason is by freezing the LHA rate in a time of rents rocketing, providers have had to start working on the basis of market rents rather than LHA rents, because otherwise they'll just get no property whatsoever. Now, for reasons that I won't bore everybody listening with, I did some analysis and I worked out that when the providers are negotiating at market rent, that's actually corresponding to about the 85th percentile of the of the rent sample. So for anybody who doesn't know or doesn't remember, LHA used to be set at the 50th percentile, and then over 10 years ago, it was clipped back to the 30th percentile of rents. But today they're negotiating at the 85th percentile, so drastically higher than they were for contracts that are years long, sometimes have a inflation protection in the rent side of things, no voids, no credit risk to speak of. I'm not saying go off and work with any old provider. You have got to due diligence the provider. That is the absolutely key part. But if I was doing that today, the amount of cash flow that some of these can generate, we're getting stuff sometimes that is yielding 15 and 20%. I'm cherry picking the very best examples there. We're not getting that every deal, right? But we are doing deals that are yielding 15 and 20% sometimes. And those yields are so good, even if you've left quite a bit of money in, you haven't got a long payback period. Once the payback period's completed, you're obviously putting some pretty good numbers in the bank every month. And the only real thing I think you need to worry about is whether those units still work at market rent, which inevitably they probably do. If they wash their face at market rent, you can take the risk. Don't overpay for them, absolutely. But I think I would be getting stuck into that even more than I already am, because it would help you build those blocks of equity plus cash flow. It's cake and eat it sort of stuff at the moment. And I don't think there's many people doing it very well. I hear the fanfare, but I don't see lots of, unless you're going to tell me YPN's done lots of great case studies of people doing this sort of stuff already.
We've done some case studies with some people who've done some incredible kind of 1, 2, 3, 4 deals, where they've worked really closely with 1 or 2 kind of social housing providers, I should say, and then they've kind of gone out and shopped for the property to fit that. Where sometimes it's a very niche, particular property that they need. And they've got really good at that. But I've not really met people who've done this on a really big scale. Know a few people who are talking about it now, but, quite what that will look like, whether they're going to build purpose-built blocks of flats for a provider, maybe, I don't know.
I think you see that more in the sort of supported space where they need specialist stuff. And those can be magnificent sort of deals, but those are things really that you need to develop.
Yeah, those, and they like unicorns, like found this. Whereas I think what you're talking about is actually there's a demand for that kind of temporary housing for lots of different types of stock. Actually,
learn from people who've been there and done it. Real investors, real lessons. ypn.plus.